You know how a bicycle just tips right over the second you stop moving, but the minute you start pedaling, it suddenly becomes incredibly stable? Or what about a child's spinning top? Why doesn't that fall over as long as it's spinning? Well, it turns out the exact same hidden physics keeping that little toy upright is also guiding massive passenger planes, ships, keeping the Hubble Space Telescope locked onto distant galaxies, and even telling your smartphone which way is up. Welcome to our explainer. Today, we're unraveling one of the absolute coolest mysteries in everyday physics, the gyroscopic effect. Think about the really strange difference between a stationary bike and a moving one. If you've ever tried to balance on a bike while at a complete standstill, you know it's just a frantic, wobbly mess that usually ends with your foot on the ground. You might intuitively think it's just about positioning your body weight perfectly, but here's a wild reality for you. If you lock the handlebars of a bicycle straight ahead so they absolutely cannot turn, even the best professional cyclist in the world can't balance on it for more than a few seconds. The secret to a bicycle's balance is entirely wrapped up in its forward movement and its ability to steer. Now, to really get what's going on here, let's connect this bicycle mystery to that classic childhood toy, the spinning top. When a top is just sitting there on the floor, gravity pulls it right over. No surprise there. But give it a rapid spin, and suddenly it stands perfectly vertical, like it's miraculously defying gravity. As long as it spins, it fights to stay upright. The moment friction slowly grinds that spin down, the wobble returns, and boom, it crashes to the floor. Understanding this simple toy actually gives us the keys to understanding spacecraft navigation and modern electronics. Section 1. What is the gyroscopic effect? Let's dive right into this core concept. So a gyroscope is basically just a rapidly spinning body, like a wheel or a disc, mounted so that its axis can freely orient itself. The simplest example is exactly that, spinning top. When an object spins, it generates a property called angular momentum. The rule here is incredibly simple but deeply powerful. The faster the object spins, the greater its angular momentum. And in physics, nature has a very strict rule. It absolutely hates changing angular momentum. A spinning object essentially remembers its initial position in space and will fiercely resist any external forces that try to tilt or change its axis. And here's where things get really weird. Look at what happens when you do force a spinning object to tilt. You'd expect it to just fall over in the direction you push it, right? But it doesn't. Instead, it reacts at a 90-degree angle to the force you applied. If you push down on the left side of a spinning gyroscope, it doesn't tilt left. It actually turns forward. This bizarre, super counterintuitive phenomenon is called precession. Instead of falling, the axis slowly sweeps around in a circle. It's this exact turning reaction that makes gyroscopes feel almost like magical, living things actively fighting back against your hands. Section 2. Why doesn't the bicycle fall? Now let's see how this all connects to the great bicycle twist. Okay, so for decades, the widely held myth was that the spinning wheels of a bicycle acted like massive gyroscopes. People naturally assumed that because the wheels are spinning incredibly fast, they create this gyroscopic effect that perfectly balances the bike and stops it from tipping. But rigorous physics experiments have totally debunked this as the main reason. I mean, think about it. If gyroscopes were the only thing keeping you upright, you wouldn't need to steer at all. The reality, steering geometry and forward mass distribution are what actually keep a bike upright. So the crucial point is that a bicycle is actually designed to automatically steer itself back under the rider whenever it starts to fall. It does this through a beautiful combination of 3 mechanical steps. First, the caster effect. Because of the angle of your front fork, the steering axis hits the ground ahead of where the tire actually touches, kind of like a shopping cart wheel. If the bike leans left, the ground literally forces the wheel left. Second, the mass of the handlebars and wheels sits slightly forward, so gravity also pulls the steering heavily into the lean. And third, gyroscopic precession. When the bike leans, the gyro effect doesn't hold it upright. Instead, it gracefully helps turn the wheel into the lean. All 3 mechanisms act together, automatically forcing the bike to steer itself back into balance. This brilliantly illustrates just how wonderfully complex everyday objects are. There's this great quote from Dr. Aaron Schwab, a researcher at TU Delft, who mathematically modeled bicycle physics. He proved that while the gyroscopic effect and the caster effect are incredibly helpful, they actually aren't entirely essential for a bike to stay up. To decisively prove this, researchers built an incredible prototype called the two-mass skate, or TMS bicycle. It looks totally bizarre. It has these extremely small wheels to minimize mass, and get this, it features secondary wheels that spin in the exact opposite direction to completely cancel out any gyroscopic effect. They also entirely removed the caster effect, yet when they pushed it down a hallway, it remained perfectly stable in motion. No way, right? It turns out just the clever distribution of weight alone can brilliantly force a bicycle to steer itself into a fall, keeping it fully upright. So while your bike's wheels do have a gyroscopic effect, the bicycle is truly a masterpiece of multiple physical effects working in harmony. Section 3. Navigation in Sky and Space. So if the gyroscopic effect is only a supporting actor for bicycles, where does it rule supreme? The historical journey of this technology is absolutely amazing. Back in 1852, physicist Leon Foucault coined the term gyroscope, which literally translates to see rotation, when he used a simple spinning wheel to elegantly demonstrate the rotation of the Earth itself. Fast forward to 1911, and brilliant inventor Elmer Sperry created the very first aircraft autopilot, using powerful gyroscopes to hold an airplane steady without the pilot's manual input. Today, we vastly evolved from those early clunky brass and steel discs to the incredibly ultra-precise gyroscopes floating silently inside the Hubble Space Telescope. In the dark, vast void of space, there are absolutely no roads, no horizons, and no magnetic north to comfortably guide you. Gyroscopes are quite literally the only way a spacecraft truly knows which way it is pointing. They power critical inertial navigation systems, which use 3 mutually perpendicular gyroscopes to accurately track every single microscopic movement of a rocket or satellite. Without them, we couldn't point a telescope at a faint, distant galaxy, we couldn't keep the International Space Station properly oriented, and modern spaceflight would be entirely impossible. Section 4. Microgyroscopes in your smartphone. You don't have to be an astronaut to rely on this hidden physics. Let's bring this right back down to Earth and straight into your pocket. Hidden deep inside your smartphone is a breathtaking marvel of modern engineering called a MEMS gyroscope. That stands for Micro Electromechanical System. Because you obviously can't fit heavy, spinning metal discs inside a sleek, thin phone, engineers brilliantly developed microscopic silicon structures right onto a computer chip. Imagine something so small it requires a microscope to see. Instead of a spinning wheel, these tiny structures rapidly vibrate. When you rotate your phone, a physical phenomenon called the Coriolis effect gracefully causes those microscopic vibrating structures to shift slightly. The chip instantaneously measures this microscopic shift and translates it into electrical signals. These incredibly tiny hidden gyroscopes are quietly performing absolute miracles every single day. When you effortlessly turn your phone sideways to watch a video and the screen automatically rotates, that's your MEMS gyroscope at work. When you slip on a VR headset and look around a stunning digital room seamlessly, that's a gyroscope tracking your head movements hundreds of times a second. They provide deeply immersive motion-controlled inputs in your gaming consoles, and they even power your camera's optical image stabilization, detecting the incredibly slight trembling of your hands and instantly shifting the camera lens to give you a perfectly clear, stunningly blur-free photo. Section 5. Conservation of angular momentum. Let's gracefully wrap up by connecting all these truly amazing technologies back to the roots of it all. Whether it's the simple brass spinning top dancing on your childhood floor, the spinning wheel of a stable bicycle, a vibrating microscopic silicon chip, or the massive reaction wheels aggressively keeping a space station alive, they all universally bow to one single fundamental law, the conservation of angular momentum. Nature fiercely protects spinning momentum, creating a beautiful, invisible, and highly stabilizing framework that human engineers have brilliantly learned to harness to build our deeply connected modern world. It's truly incredible to think that the exact same gorgeous physics rule applies absolutely everywhere. The universe's stubborn refusal to let a simple spinning object fall over is precisely what allows us to navigate the distant stars and effortlessly snap a highly stable photo. So the next time you joyfully ride a bike, spin a simple top, or launch an intense game on your smartphone, ask yourself, can you feel the deeply hidden physics of the universe actively at work? If you absolutely love discovering the hidden physics inside everyday things, make sure to enthusiastically subscribe to Code of the Universe. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep wondering, keep exploring, and I'll catch you next time.